Hi, this is attorney Marco Schiavo from Simmons and Schiavo. A number of our clients are business owners, and when we have business owner clients, there are some things that we have to think about in addition to the regular planning for incapacity and planning for distributing assets after their death. We're really looking at preserving wealth in a way that's slightly different. One way is to make sure that there is a plan for the continuity of their business, making sure their business continues after they die and there's value there, the business can be sold. So that's one thing. And then another way to preserve wealth is to make sure that they are properly insured. So I have with me today Chris Shepard, who is the founder and CEO of New Wave Insurance. Welcome, Chris.
Hello. Thank you, Marco.
Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself and your company.
Sure. A little bit about myself. I am president of New Wave Insurance. Founded New Wave Insurance probably about 2 years ago. Have 15 years of insurance experience, ranging from pretty much the life cycle of an insurance policy. I started out in claims, total loss claims. So I saw what happened to people when they had that total loss accident or that total loss claim, to sales, to management, and now to agency ownership. And I'm very proud to say that New Wave Insurance takes a very unique approach to advising our clients. For us, our motto is coverage matters. And so when we're talking with clients, it's very important that they understand what they're covered for, what their exposure's for, and what educated decisions or choices that they're making when purchasing their insurance. And so our agency roughly is about 50% personal lines and then 50% commercial lines. And we're located right here in the Plainville, Massachusetts area.
Okay. And where do you service?
We service both Massachusetts and the Rhode Island markets.
Okay, so anywhere in the state, really?
Anywhere in the state. We have clients out in Springfield. We've got clients up in Acton. We've got clients in Plainville.
Okay.
And we also have clients in Rhode Island. So it works out well.
Okay. So in addition to liability insurance, all right, that's an obvious. You need liability insurance, and you need workers' compensation. So tell us a little bit about workers' comp.
Sure. Workers' compensation, if you are a business owner, you hopefully are very familiar with workers' compensation. You understand the necessity of workers' compensation. But just very basic, workers' compensation is an insurance policy that provides coverage for your employees if they become injured on the job and performing job-related tasks. So it provides compensation for their wages and also any medical expenses that they incur while on the job.
Okay. All right. And what is the audit? I've heard of workers' compensation premium audits. Mm-hmm. Tell us what that is. That's such a scary word, audit. Tell us what exactly is a premium audit.
Sure. It is scary. So premium audits are when your workers' compensation insurance provider believes there's some discrepancy that needs to be reconciled. And they can happen for a number of reasons, but typically they audits fall into two categories. One is a premium audit, and the other can be a classification audit. So I'll give you an example of both. So a classification audit is the way workers' compensation premiums are generated is they take not only the classification code of the business. So if you're a roofer, they'll say, all right, roofers have a certain exposure, and then employees are then charged based off of, or the rate is then determined based off of the job classification code that they have. So if you have a roofer, but you put them or you list them as being clerical, that's obviously going to bring the premium down considerably because the likelihood of a clerical person having an accident is a lot lower than it is a roofer. So sometimes business owners may make a mistake and classify a roofer as someone who does clerical work, and an insurance company might catch that and say, all right, we're not collecting the right rate for this risk, and so they may decide to do an audit. And then that would be where they would just simply send a letter, and then they would want to reconcile that to make sure that they were collecting the right premium for the rate. The second is a premium audit. And that is essentially they're not collecting enough premium for the risk. So again, we'll go back to that roofer scenario. The roofer is actually a full-time, but as the business owner or the sales representative misclassifies the individual's hours and says that they're only working 15 hours a week when actually they're working 50 or 55. That has a big determination in how much premium is charged, and when they would get, and an employer might receive a premium audit notification based on that, and then the business owner would just want to work with the insurance company to reconcile that as quickly as possible.
Okay, that's the best piece of advice right there. Just
Absolutely.
work with them, give them what they want, right?
Exactly, because if they have a lot of these times these notifications aren't open-ended. They're deadlines attached to them, and so typically it's about 30 days. And if they do not receive communication from you, not necessarily all the documents and everything like that, but they want to hear from you. So if you can contact them or contact your agent within that time period, usually things continue to go in a very cordial manner. If the individual doesn't follow back up with the insurance company after receiving the notification, then what could happen is that they could put it in default, and then at that point they could put in a cancellation of your workers' comp. And one of the things you mentioned earlier, continuity of business. If you're a contractor, if you're a delivery, or if you're doing any sort of work that requires certificates of insurance, certificates of workers' compensation, or if you're a restaurant, anything like that, if your workers' compensation policy gets canceled, you could lose the job, because that would directly be reported to any certificate holders or additional named insured. Or they can actually come in, they can have you stop working. So they can shut production down because the state takes the position of your workers aren't being protected. And it's a requirement that you have workers' compensation. And so you definitely want to make sure you're in compliance because you don't want to, if you're a business owner, you don't want to have any sort of stoppage of work.
Okay. All right. In terms of other types of insurance, tell us a little bit about cyber insurance. That must be a hot topic these days with the breaches and kinds of hacks into computers and things like that. Tell us a little bit about cyber insurance.
Sure. And actually, yes, it's a very hot topic now. Cyber insurance is essentially an insurance policy that protects your company from any exposures that result from a cyber intrusion or from a hack or any sort of data breach. So if you're a company and you have customer data, sensitive customer data, first and foremost, you always want to make sure that you are protecting that customer data. But should you get hacked or should there be a breach, you definitely want to have a cyber insurance policy in place to help you meet the requirements that are placed upon you for notifying your clients, handling any liability that may result as the customer's data gets out. There could be things that happen that cause people to sue you as a result of that data breach. And you want to make sure that you are in a position to be able to financially handle those costs in a responsible manner. And an insurance policy specifically tailored to your business's needs can provide that for you.
Excellent. What other types of insurances should a business owner have?
Sure.
Or a business itself have?
Absolutely. Great question. I think the most overlooked area of insurance for business owners, in my experience, has been EPLI. That's Employment Practices Liability Insurance. Everybody knows about packages. Everybody knows about your BOPs. Everybody knows about your liability, as you mentioned earlier. But EPLI is really one where I would say a vast number of small businesses do not have and they do not even know about. And EPLI essentially provides coverage for any sort of claims that are brought against you for unfair hiring practices, wrongful terminations, harassment, discrimination, things like that. And those are the things, if you're a small business owner, even a medium-sized business owner, are extremely expensive to defend yourself against. So if I could just give a couple scenarios, if you're interviewing for a position and for whatever reason you decide, legitimate reasons, you decide not to hire a person. If that person feels as though they were discriminated against, they can place allegations and bring a suit against you. Another example, if somebody has poor attendance at work and their performance just isn't what it needs to be, and you terminate them rightfully, they could still bring allegations against you alleging wrongful termination. You have somebody another scenario, you have somebody that you terminate for just bad performance. They're just, not performing well, and they bring allegations of harassment against you. Those types, if you do not have EPLI coverage, the insurance policies will not respond and provide you coverage for that claim. And these types of claims are very expensive to defend yourself against, because even if you've done your documentation, you followed all the processes, you go to your SHRM meetings, your Society of Human Resource Managers meetings, you do everything by the book, you still have to defend yourself in court. And that can be $20, $30, $40, $50,000 in expenses that you have to come up with out of pocket. And so EPLI coverage provides you coverage in those situations, and it is extremely inexpensive to purchase or even have it put on a rider on your policy. So if you are a contractor or really a bakery or any sort of small business owner and you have employees and you interview, you definitely want to have EPLI coverage for all of those reasons and many more that we just haven't had the time to get to. But EPLI, in my opinion, is the most overlooked insurance in the marketplace right now.
Right. And I always tell my clients to make sure they have a good umbrella policy. So if you could talk a little bit about umbrella policies.
Absolutely. So umbrella policies are really they're comprehensive and expansive coverage that go above and beyond what you currently have, what your current limits of liability are. And so whether you're an attorney, whether you are a baker, laundromat, whatever type of business you have your general limits, and then you have your umbrella limits that lie on top of that. And so should you run into a situation where there's a large claim, or even a claim that may not fall exactly within the parameters of your policy, in certain circumstances, an umbrella policy can provide you coverage in that situation. So if you are you deliver for Amazon, or you own a laundromat that offers delivery service, or a pizza shop, and you've got drivers, if they rear-end somebody, or if they hit somebody dropping off pizzas because they have to get it 30 minutes or less, you want to make sure that you have an umbrella policy to cover the additional expenses that are incurred. So not only your liability limits that can be exhausted pretty quickly, especially if it's a bodily injury case, but your umbrella policy stands on top of all of that, and it just puts another layer of protection in between you and the person filing suit against you. And normally umbrella policies are a couple $100. I
was going to say, they're not very expensive at all.
They're not very expensive, no. So they really are, for your insurance dollar, they're the most bang for your buck.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, Chris, how can people get a hold of you?
Sure. People can get a hold of me at just simply calling into our office. We've got a fantastic staff here. People can get a hold of me just by calling 508-695-1534. The number again, 508-695-1534. Or you can just visit us online at www.newwaveinsurances.com. That's www.newwaveinsurances.com.
Okay, and you can reach us at simmonsandSchiavo.com. Again, that's www.simmondschiavo.com. Chris, thank you for being on the show. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, Marco, thank you very much. This has been awesome.
All right, thank you for listening.